that time again. It's another video time. So this video, as you can see, is going to be about the book that I had told you guys about, that I was reading, that I am reading for school. If you didn't already know, I'm reading Half the Sky, and this is a book called Turning Oppression into Opportunities for Women Worldwide. And I was given this book to read by my English teacher, English 1A, and I basically wanted to come on here and share this with you all because I know there's a lot of women viewers that view my videos and so forth. So basically, I just want to do a little rundown on what I've already read so far. So far, I've read the introduction, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And from just reading those 3 portions alone, I can already get a feel about what I already know what the book is about because of the introduction. And 2, I gotta get a feel on how the book is going to go. So basically what the author does is he breaks it down into real life situations that these women go through. And in each chapter, he breaks it down in a different person's perspective. He does he'll do 2 ladies at a time, or give 2 different instances. He'll give a good and a bad instance, and then he'll put more informative information or more statistical information within that chapter, and it flows well doing it that way. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want the book to be a whole bunch of that. Who wants to read a book where you feel like each chapter is the same? Each chapter is the same. I want to get it in depth or some sort of different. I don't know how to say it. I just don't want the whole book to be the same chronological way. I don't want to be able to predict the next chapter. You know what I mean? So basically, from reading chapter 1 and chapter 2, I'll give you guys a basic summary over what I've gotten from that so far, because I have my notes right here, and I'm gonna just run through. I might ramble, y'all, because I get kind of enraged, or I get kind of excited, I guess. Get excited when I start talking about stuff that I know. So in chapter 1, what he does is he gives us 2 scenarios. He gives us a young girl's perspective, and then a young girl growing up into being a woman in a brothel, and the other one, and the young girl who she didn't grow up into a brothel. She was trying her hardest not to be put into a brothel. And brothels mean whorehouses, or places where gentlemen callers go. What they call them are Johns. They call them Johns, and they go there and they, get their services done from these women, these young girls. That's sick. Sick. Anyways, and so what they do in the book is basically he goes from this young girl, Mina, and this story is, it's a handful to deal with. So Mina is a young girl. She was sex trafficked. She was picked up one evening from she was in Cambodia, I believe. She's from Cambodia. I'm going to check my notes. Excuse me. Mina. She's an Indian woman. And she basically is sex trafficked until she's about, I'll say 25, 30, around that age somewhere. And she has 2 children by anonymous men that she had been serviced from. And she basically has these children, and the way in which they depicted to be is very, very hard to deal with, because I know, even though I don't have any children, I know how it would feel. I can't say I know, because I don't know, because I don't have children, but I could just imagine how I would feel for someone to just come in after I've given birth and take my child from me, and I see them no more. And I see them no more. When I say I see them no more, I see them no more. They're invisible. They're only a figure in my imagination as of then. Because the brothel owners, what they do is they take the children from the girls and they keep them as hostage, or as you would say, collateral. And They do this so that they can instill inferior, or the inferior vibe into these young girls, so they feel like they have nowhere to go. Because I have your child, you can't go anywhere. I have your child, you can't leave. And if you don't do this, I will kill your child. I will send you your child's fingers in a plate. You know, stuff like that. They do brutal stuff like that. That's just too much. It's too much. And she has a son and a daughter, and what I found out with this story is what they do with the young men the young men that are birthed from these women in the brothels. They take the young men and they treat them as slaves. Not slaves, as servants, excuse me, because the women are considered the slaves. They're considered, in chapter 1 is called The Emancipation of the 21st Century Slave. That is crazy. Sex traffickers or prostitutes are considered the new slaves of the 2000th century. How do I keep getting tongue-tied? The 21st century, excuse me. You see me get angry, huh? Okay, so they take it from that standpoint. And in this story, what Mina does is just like, it's on point. Because when she eventually runs away from the brothel, she runs to a different city, and she established her own. Once she established her own, she tries to go back so she can get her children. And as she goes, every day that she goes back, she does this faithfully, y'all, faithfully. And she goes back, and every time that she goes back, they beat her, and they try to push her away. They push her away because she's outside yelling her children's name and just making it so hard for them. And they take it back onto the story of the children's side and what they're going through as they're in this brothel. So as they're in this brothel, the daughter is becoming of age, and the mother is starting to know that once the girls hit puberty, that's when they start to traffic them or prostitute them. Sickos. And she knows that her daughter is starting to get up there in age, and she has to try to save her before she's tainted. And eventually she's not able to save her, but she does get them back, because what she does is she goes back, and then there was a part in the story where she tries to go back, and she gets help from this organization who try to help those who are in need of, and the prostitutes that are in need of help, those who are really seeking help and really trying to get out of this. They try to help them as best as way they know how. They'll do raids of brothels so they can get all the illegal the minors out, and just try to break the brothel down so that they can not do this anymore. But then eventually they just build themselves right back up. But I don't know. And so in the story, so she eventually, and then this is the kind of interesting part. So she gets married. Mina gets married to this gentleman who she had an encounter with. I wouldn't say it wasn't like a work encounter. She wasn't prostituting for him or anything like that. She was prostituting for the brothel owner's son, and then he would start beating on her in public. Like, if I just start beating on somebody in public, and everybody's walking by, just give my money, stuff like that. And that's what was happening. And this man, her neighbor, seen this happening, and he decided to jump in and was like, no, dude, this is not cool. Stop. Like, get out of here. I'm going to beat you up. And so the dude leaves, and he eventually, the neighbor who saves her life, he eventually marries her, and the brothel owner's son tries to buy her back, and he can't, because the other dude was like, nah, she mine. Their love, and this was the precious part. He said, love cannot buy what I have, not love. What did I just say? Money cannot buy what I have, and I have love, And that was really, really, that was touching, because it was like she found love from feeling like, I can imagine her going from feeling like less than of a person to having someone actually love you, not because of what you can do for them, or not because of what you've paid for them to do to you, but to actually love you for the being that you are, and that's kind of, I could see how that could be a really good thing for a person like that, to be who is in a situation like that. And I really love that part of the book. I felt that he was a great man. I would have loved him. I want to see who he looked like. He's a great man. And so She eventually gets her children back because she did the raid. She goes forth with the people who go forward with the raid of the brothel, and she gets her children back. But then the brothel like starts to want to rebel towards her, and they try to take her children, and then that's when the other guy, like her husband, her phenomenal husband, he takes over and he like let them know, you can't have this over here, bruh. You can't have this. And I just really like that part of the book, and that was in chapter 1. So that's chapter 1. That's a wrap of chapter 1. Okay, so chapter 2 was more of a good bad story, right? So there were 2 women that Nicholas tried to save from being in a brothel. So he went into a brothel as though he was a potential customer, and he chose a woman each time that he went. He went twice. So he chose a woman, and when he would take them away, like he eventually got them to, he was able to take the girls away from the brothel and talk to them, basically. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to use them for services or anything like that. He wanted to use them he wanted to release them, basically. And that's what he did for both women. But for one, she was so intertwined in what the brothels had to offer as far as drugs wise, because what they do is, especially if you're not there willingly, they will drug you and force you to do whatever it is that they want you to do. If you don't do it, they'll drug you to get you to do it. They give you what they call happy pills. And most of the times it's methamphetamines, it's cocaine, it's stuff like that. You know, really harsh drugs. And these women get strung out on that. And that was what the one story was about. Like, Nicholas helped both of the women, and he gave them enough money to establish what they wanted. He took them back to their families, and he tried to give them a better life. One woman succeeded and the other didn't, because she was so strung out in the meth that she kept going back. She kept going back and kept going back. And it was really heart-wrenching, because when he seen her again, she just broke down and was like, I lied to you bold-facedly. I lied to you, and forgive me. And she was just crying her eyes out. I could just feel the pain in reading the book. But the other young lady, it was kind of a different story. She succeeded because of Nicholas going back and the organization going back to help her. Because what they did was they gave them money to start their own businesses, because that's what they wanted. That's what they want. They want women to start their own businesses. They want them to be entrepreneurs and things like that. And so they gave this one lady some money to build her own stall. And eventually her family, this is the crazy part, family will do you dirty than friends will sometimes. And it's just like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, what can you do? Everyone will forsake you besides God, you know? And so her family was taking advantage of her having a stall, as if this was their personal store. And you know, if you know a thing or two about having your own business, you know that you can't constantly give and not receive. You know, I have to give so that I can receive. And they were just taking. They were just taking, and not providing profits for that, so that she can replenish what they have taken. And she would go back to her family and would say something, and they would look at her like, what are you talking about? You're stupid. Shut up. You know? Stuff like that. And it made her want to backslide. So when she got ready to backslide, and she was getting ready to go back to this brothel, and not go back to this brothel, but back to another brothel with another young lady, she just, like, something came in the midst, and I ain't gonna say something. God was there, and he made a miracle happen. He had Nicholas and his team to come down, and you know, they were just doing their checkup on her, and she could do nothing but cry and just be thankful that they were there, because she knew that something else was getting ready to happen. She explained to them what the situation was about her family and how they were taking from her and weren't giving profits and stuff like that. So she was losing rather than winning. And the only way she could remember how to get money was to sell her body. And that's all she knows. You know, like, what can you do if the person only knows this one route? You know how, like, we think that, I think we take it for granted, the fact that we know more than others do. Or we're more apt to do more than others are. or are permitted to do, you know? Like, because over there in these foreign countries or these third world countries, that's all they have. They don't have nothing. What can you do if you have sticks and stones and tarp? You know, like, you can't do anything if you don't really have much. But we have better resources. We have different organizations that can help us, but there are not so many organizations over there that can help other people who are in need. And it's just really sad when it comes to that. But back to what I was saying about the story. So they eventually helped her to get back on her feet, and they moved her to a different city without her family, and she thrived from there. She went to school. She started going to school for hair, and she became a stylist, and she wanted her own business, but then she thought she had AIDS, and then she got married, and she was carrying a baby, but then come to find out she didn't have AIDS, and it was just a big story. It was a huge story. Like, she was a definite success story, and she found someone to actually love her. And then this was the sad part. So the guy who she found to marry her, she didn't find him. He found her, what have you. But his family was not very willing to take her in. They didn't like that. They said, if you are to marry her, we're crossing you off. You're not a part of our family anymore. We don't know you anymore. So he took that risk, and he loved her nonetheless. I think that is some powerful stuff, you know. And I just admire that. And I mean, I'm feeling the book, but at the same time, I'm not, because I don't really want to hear all that. But I need to, so that I can be better, so that I can know my self-worth, know more of my self-worth. Not because I already know my self-worth, but you know more of it, and know how to better perceive myself, or, you know, the people around me, how to help them better perceive themselves. Because not everything that you read or that you intake is for you. It's sometimes it's for other people. That's why I felt like I really had to share this book with you all, because I feel like it's not only for me, it's for other people who need to see this as well, and who need to read it as well, and who understand you are phenomenal. You are phenomenal. You woman, you. But like I was saying, I'm loving the book. It's cool. It's kind of a hard read because of the fact that it's such a harsh issue, and it's kind of hit home. But I mean, if it didn't really affect me, if I wasn't so emotional, maybe it wouldn't be so much of a hard read. But I advise for you all to come along with me and read this book. You don't even have to go out and buy it. You can just go to your local library and pick it up and just check it out and recheck it out every time that time comes about. Because that's all I'm doing. Because I wasn't going to buy this book because I know I'm not going to read it again. To be honest, I don't really like to read books like this. I like to read more books like this. You know, I like books like this and, you know, other stuff like that. I don't really like novels per se, unless they're very informative about me and stuff, you know. And I feel like this is gonna be good. So I would say that's my overview for chapters 1 and 2. There's a lot going on, so I hope that you all like it, and let me know if you guys are reading this book with me, so I can, you know, we can interact and learn together. I want to hear what you guys think is important, and what points that you did that I may have missed that you can refresh me on, you know. So definitely those comments. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and you can push that like button too. But I love you all. Have a wonderful and blessed day / night / whatever. Okay, and I'll see y'all later.